How do you recharge without stepping away from your business? Stick around. We are going to talk to Faith Rivera with Alosavitas Consulting. But before we do, I am Tracy Poe, the founder of Communicate Great and the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business Events Group. And you are joining us for the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business podcast. Today we are highlighting Faith. She is, like I said, the founder of Alosavitas and the principal consultant. So, Faith, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I'm doing good, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
You know what? I'm surviving. I'm very anxious to hear what you have to say about recharging without stepping away. This is going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it because I know so many women in business not only are running their businesses, but they have so many hats that they're wearing beyond what they're doing daily to run their business, or even if they're working for someone else, they still have a ton of responsibilities to that other company. So, tell us about yourself before we get into all of the tips that you're going to bring us today. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Sure. So, as Tracy mentioned, my name is Faith Rivera, and I'm the CEO and principal consultant for Alosavitas Consulting. I've been running this firm now for a little over 3 years. We celebrated our third birthday back in April, and I'm so excited that we've grown to a place where we actually now have a team. I have a team now. So, I have a client experience associate, Keishla, who runs our social media. She helps with a lot of our marketing and just making sure that I stay on track. Because, as you said, business owners wear a lot of hats. And
Right.
then we have two opportunity curators, which help with grant support. They help with research for our clients. They help with projects, event management, project management. And those two are Victoria and Ariel. So it's a very exciting season for our team that we actually have a team now in just 3 short years of being our own firm. And what we really do and what we focus on is I kind of say our tagline is we build capacity for change. So that's really what we aim to do with our clients is to give them the tools, the resources, and the support to elevate their impact and their income. And the ways in which we primarily do that are project management, grant writing, professional development, and strategy development. So we do work with founders, executives, leaders one on one, but we also do groups as well if there's leadership teams that kind of need us to come alongside them. And as you mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit today about some burnout prevention. And to me, that is one of our red threads that kind of goes throughout all of our different areas of support that we offer and helping leaders to really step into their unique gifts and authenticity as leader.
Okay, and so this is going to be huge, but before we get into your tips, I do want to kind of talk more about what you do, your history, where you've come from to get you to where you are, just because I find it fascinating when I learn about stories. How did this evolve? And so part of learning how something evolved, someone started their business, had the thought, whatever, is also building in some of that credibility, some of that authority,
Yeah.
because we get to learn just exactly what you went through to get you where you are. And that is experience, right?
Yeah.
So I know that you come from the nonprofit world. I come from the nonprofit world as well. So just talk a minute about that. What were you doing when you were with the nonprofits? And then we'll kind of segue from there to how do you bring that into what you are doing now?
Yeah, I have worn a little bit of every hat in the nonprofit space other than an executive director, which I now kind of am as a business owner. And I've also owned my own business for the last 10 years. So I have both that mix of like nonprofit program development as well as business acumen. So to say, and my master's degree is actually in higher education, and the entire master's degree focused on program development with student affairs administration. And when I signed up for the master's program, I honestly didn't know that's what it was going to be, but it's definitely where I needed to be because I learned how to create a curriculum, how to market a program, how to create a budget and operate it, how
Wow.
to do evaluation. Of course, we did some like more higher ed specific stuff like theories and history, compliance, all of that, which is super important, especially if you're going to stay within higher ed, which is what I thought I was going to do when I started my master's program because I was working within higher education at that time. I started when I was in my master's program, I was at first in kind of the career development services space within the Career Center. And then very shortly after I started my program, transitioned into a new grant initiative where I was a part of a team of 4 that was operating $1.3 million budget. I was doing a lot of the admin work. And so
Wow.
I was helping to write the reports. I was helping to do the scheduling for the student staff. I was helping them to create the curriculum that they were teaching the staff, the student staff, and then operating within the schools. But we were also, there was a team of 4 of us. So we had to work orientations at the colleges and at the high schools. We had to do vendoring and all the things that you think about that nonprofits and business owners have to do. I
Right.
also had some of that experience working within the Learning Center at my college and started to get that mentorship, professional development experience. I had to do a lot of speaking. I had to do a lot of skill development. Again, all of these pieces leading me to now what I do today. And once I graduated with my master's, I received a message on Facebook from someone that I had gone to college with. And she said, "Hey, I know you're like weeks away from graduation, that your husband's starting medical school in a different county. So you guys are probably going to have to move. Like, do you have a job situation like worked out? What are you going to do?" She said, "I'm moving positions and they need to hire someone like tomorrow for this role."
Wow.
I didn't think I was walking into like my job offer. I thought I was walking into an interview. So I had my resume, I was ready. And they said, "Faith, like you need to come and run this program. It's going to be you. You'll have a leadership team that you can pull on, but it's basically you." So I was a one woman show with the
Wow.
support of some external, leadership within my organization and partner organizations. But we were building up an initiative that eventually grew into the Help Me Grow North Texas system of care that has served over 10,000 families today and now has expanded into 13 or 12 other communities across the state of Texas. And being that it was primarily me for the longest time, and then even as the team started to grow, there was very few people other than like volunteers or like committee people that were helping us. I had to step in and learn how to do grant writing, grant management, how to do marketing, social media, how to storytell, how to build relationships and community partnerships. I was the one on Saturday mornings at every community resource fair talking to parents and creating marketing materials and
Right.
doing the professional development opportunities to share about what we do, who we serve, how we help people, doing professional development for service providers. And then COVID hit. And our world turned upside down. We had to expand this program very, very quickly. We were supposed to launch it in August, and in March on the 13th, we got a call saying we're launching, what was that, 4 months early. So, that was a very, very stressful time and definitely experienced some burnout, but it taught me so much of what it takes to be really a successful founder, executive director, nonprofit leader. Because again, even though I worked for a very, very large organization, I was kind of this operating solo person. Like I had a supervisor, but a lot of the responsibilities fell on me. And
Right.
so I can empathize with a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of nonprofit founders and executives when they feel like they have to wear every hat and the burden and the buck stops with them, right? Because I've experienced it both within my nonprofit career but then also within running my own business up
Yes.
until recently where I got to hire a team.
Yes. And I can relate. And again, I think most women can in that, in the nonprofit world, I was wearing so many
Yeah.
hats. And then now that I walked away from the nonprofit world and have started Communicate Great, you are still, you start out as a solopreneur.
Yeah.
And so you were wearing all the hats. And when we talked about at the very beginning of, how do you recharge without walking away? We mentioned that so many women can relate to this because we are wearing so many hats. And not only are we wearing the multiple hats in our business,
Yeah.
and then our family, whether you're single or married or, single parent, married with kids, parents, siblings. I mean,
There's so many different things, right?
there are so many different things. Your friend base, if you attend church, if you're in networking groups. I mean, it's just there's so much and
Yeah.
it can be so overwhelming. And I know that dealing with stress is one of the things that you like to talk about. There are so many things that you like to talk about. And just to let our audience know, Faith has also been on the Communicate Great podcast and more than once, pretty
Twice,
sure.
I think.
And she shared some really such deep, insightful information about how we are nurtured and wired. And all of that really plays into how we show up in our businesses. And so to say that you do just one thing, that would be selling you way short because you do multiple things, but beyond those multiple things, the layers that are there behind each one of those things that you do, it's so deep because of all of your background, all of your education, and then the experience that you fall into when you're doing the different things that you have done. So, to have you on and to drop whatever information, I just want our audience to understand the depth and the wisdom with which this is flowing from. And that is all that Faith is and all that she has experienced. So, do you want to get into what your first little tip is?
Sure. So I kind of have three major points or tips that we're going to talk about, and
Great.
we're going to save the best for last. So the hook that you said at the beginning,
Okay.
recharging without stepping away, like we're going to save the best for last. S-
Perfect.
you know, I mean, and they all flow together, right? Like we're talking about how do we show up as our best selves? How do we prevent burnout? Um, but the first point or the first piece is understanding what burnout really is. So that is a word that I feel like people throw out a lot. Oh my gosh, I'm so burnt out. I'm so burnt out. But what is burnt out really? And so for me, and in the research that I've done, the work that I do with my clients, we talk about burnout as a continuum. You don't just like wake up one day and you're burnt out. Like it's a series of events and choices over time that get you from refilled or thriving to desperately needing help, or
Right.
you're burnt out by, like you can't get off the couch, right? And it is the depletion of mental, emotional, and physical pieces of who you are.
Yes.
And where it stems from is stress that
Mm,
is not resolved.
mm,
So, we as humans are never going to fully get rid of stress, right? Like it's just a part of life, part of who we are. So it's not necessarily about getting rid of all stress, but it's about, understanding what stress looks like in our lives, how it shows up in our bodies, our minds, and being able to put stop gaps or supports in place to mitigate what's going on. So, kind of a little story time or an example. And Tracy knows a little bit about my background, but if you were to understand all the different components of my life, especially when it comes to running a business, being on two nonprofit boards, being active in several organizations in my community, and then add on top of just faith, I'm married to a resident physician. Anyone who's familiar with the medical community, especially the training that goes into, it is like a full-time job for me to help my husband with his job. And I do it with a, grateful heart because I love my husband and this is a temporary situation.
right.
But at least for the next 3 years, if not more, residency is a stress that will not be going away.
Right.
It just is what it is. So to say that I can't remove my burnout until residency goes away is depleting myself of 3 years of my life and of business and of joy and of success. But instead, it's looking at understanding my triggers, understanding what stress looks like in my body and in my mind and my soul, and ensuring that each and every day I have small, even just small things that pour back into me. One of the ways in which I think that stress often shows up for business owners is that our creativity and our leadership go away We just kind of go
Mm.
into the like mundane, going with the flow of life. But that is for me, at least one of the first triggers, so to say, or eye opening things is when I can't find myself being creative. It's hard for me to
Mm.
write my newsletters. It's hard for me to give content to my social media person. It's hard for me to write the grants or have these ideas of how we're going to move forward. Strategic is my number one strengths finder strength. And so if I can't find myself being in a place for that strategic creativity, that is an eye opener. So that would be my first tip for y'all is to start kind of taking a step back and recognizing within your own life, what does stress look like? How does it show up in your life? How does it show up in your business? And when it does show up, what are ways that you can process through it in a healthy way and ensure that you're also pouring into yourself?
And I would like to add, and I'm guessing you talk about this with people, but years ago I was taking a course and it was talking about stress. And typically we think of stress or de-stress, right, is negative.
Hmm.
But the point that this particular section was over was stress is also positive.
Yeah.
There are things in our life that are positive and exciting,
Yeah.
but what do they do to our body? Does our body recognize, oh, this is good, so I'm not going to be stressed over this? So I don't know if you want to talk about that
Sure.
just for a second.
Yeah, so there's two main kinds of stress. There's eustress and I think de-stress is the other one. I don't know why my
Right.
brain just blinked. Yeah, distress. So eustress, EU stress is basically where, like you said, Tracy, where maybe you've got a deadline that you're working on, or you're speaking in front of a group and that gives you a little bit of butterflies. Stress is a physiological response to things going on around you, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It's just our body's response to what's going on around us.
Right.
But you stress, some of the things that really bring it out or tell you that it's that kind of stress is number one, it's temporary. And number two, that there are pieces, supports in place to ensure that it doesn't have a detrimental effect on your mind, body, or spirit. So, for the example of maybe you have a really big deadline coming up, is that may cause you a lot of stress that maybe you lose a little bit of sleep, you get queasy in your stomach, or, you start sweating, your palms get kind of clammy, but that is a temporary stress, right? Like, it's going to come to an end. Hopefully, you're going to do what you need to do. Hopefully, you've built out enough time in your calendar that you actually have given yourself time to work on the project as much as you need to versus waiting till the day it's due or the day before it's due.
Right.
But distress is when it's chronic. It's ongoing. It doesn't seem like there's an end in sight. You're not necessarily doing things to mitigate the stress within your body. One
Mm.
of the frameworks that I really like to talk about when I do burnout prevention or stress management workshops is the National Institute of Health's 8 Dimensions of Wellness model. And that's basically talks about there's 8 areas of our lives that constantly need attention. And I don't necessarily mean every day, but they're 8 pieces of who make up us as people. And a lot of people think like personal, professional, maybe physical, but there's actually 8 areas. And vocational is only one of the 8.
Mm.
Now, they're all interconnected, so you can't fully separate one from the other because our vocation brings us lots of other things, right? Like financial, maybe relationships, etc. But I think sometimes we forget that there's more to our life than just our job or our business.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think one of the episodes that you were on, Communicate Great, I think we went over all 8 of those. So
Maybe.
I think so, or maybe you did a workshop. Just to let the audience know, Faith has been great about leading workshops for the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business group. And so actually you're leading one coming up in a couple of months. So looking forward to that. Oh, and next month, right? No, 2 months.
September,
September, several months. Anyhow,
sometime
she's
in the fall.
sometime in
We'll
the
be
fall.
there.
She's going to be speaking again. But if I can find that to Communicate Great where she talks about the 8, I will drop that information in the description so that you can go check out that as well. Actually, I will drop the description, all of the links to what Faith has done for Communicate Great. So, okay. All right. So that is tip number 1. Are we done with that one? Anything
Yes.
else on that?
No.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
On
Ready
to
for
number
number 2?
2. Yes. So, number 2 is setting up sustainable systems. And I
Mm,
don't just mean business operating systems, I mean our systems as people, our schedules, our boundaries, our habits, um, figuring out how and when we operate in our energy and genius zones and making sure each day that we're moving forward in the right direction. So, an example for me of things that help me make sure that my systems are operating, the biggest one is my calendar. I do not work on Wednesdays and I do not work on Sundays. I learned for me and with the clients that I serve, I needed obviously 2 days off, but I could not have them back to back. Just
mm,
based on some of my clients work full-time jobs and run a business, or they run a nonprofit and work a full-time job, or they're just better on Saturday mornings to meet because maybe their kids have soccer practice at that point. And
right.
so I was feeling like I wasn't devoting enough time to the different energies and spaces that I was showing up by. I almost feeling guilty that I had to work on Saturday mornings.
Mm,
And Wednesdays for me are a day that allows me to get what I need to done during the week. I volunteer with my church on Wednesday mornings. That's when I do grocery shopping, meal prepping. And you may be thinking, okay, Faith, well, I work a full time job, so I can't just take days off. That's fine. Figure out what boundaries you need to set within your calendar and within your life, because your boundaries are more for you than they are for anyone else. They tell you and they tell others what you value. So, another boundary for me is first thing in the morning, I need to give myself 2 hours before I do anything productive. That's when I wake up. I have my coffee, I do my devotional and quiet time, I do my reading, I take the dogs out, I get dressed, I do my makeup. Like 2 hours may seem like a long time, but it allows me to pour into me and to start off the day slow and peaceful before I pour into anyone else. At night, I don't check emails after 8 o'clock unless
wow.
I'm working on a big deadline. That happens sometimes, or I'm just bored, whatever. But I do my best not to work after 8. One big boundary that has become very, very important and has been allowing me to operate at a higher level is making sure that at least 4 to 5 days a week, there is intense physical activity built into
Mm.
my schedule. I fought that for a really long time. So I'm like, don't you know how much I have to do? Like, how am I supposed to go spend an hour to an hour and a half 5 times a week working out? But what I've found is that by taking care of myself, my physical health, by working out, my energy is better. I sleep better. I feel better about myself. So I'm able to show up in a way that is more authentic to who I am as a leader. My energy is more consistent. I'm attracting the right people because the law of attraction, I actually did a newsletter on that this week, is your thoughts directly impact what happens to you, right? What you're putting out there, what you're thinking about, what you're focusing on is what comes back to you. And that's really what boundaries are about,
Mm,
is how are you setting up your schedule, your structure, your life, your routine, so that you are filling your cup, not just giving to others, and understanding where are you and when are you at your best. If you are someone that works better at night, that's great. I'm not going to tell you that you can't, but make sure you build your schedule accordingly so you're not trying to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when you work until 11 o'clock at night. Because then you're just going to be dead, and no one wants that. So for me, my energy zones are from about 10 to noon, and then again from about 2 to 6. So I know that those are my pockets of energy. That's when I try to do my most intensive needed work, whether it's podcasts or speaking or working with clients. And that also gives me breaks in my day that I can do a workout in the morning or do a workout around lunchtime. I don't like to work out at night. Some people do, good for them. But again, I've learned what's important to me and built it into my schedule.
So I have a couple of thoughts, and I may
Please.
be putting you on the spot, but this one is not it. Thought number one, for so long, I was very anti routine. It drove me crazy, like feeling like I did the same thing over and over and over again. And I find whatever jobs, again, for nonprofit, for
Yeah.
myself, whatever, the ones that I enjoy most are the ones where I have a great variety
Yeah.
of tasks in my day.
Yeah.
And I'm not 9 o'clock, I do this, 10 o'clock, I do this. However, I can say that what I'm finding is I'm starting to truly see now the value in some of the routine.
Yeah.
And so I like that you said this is not just only thinking about your calendar. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a line that you just, you kind of listed things off
Yeah.
that falls into that systems category.
Yeah.
So I really like that you talked about beyond that and setting boundaries in our habits, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So here is where I'm starting to see the value in this. Some people know that I have struggled with sleep for the last roughly 5 years. And part of that was the last nonprofit job that I had, I was putting in crazy hours and I was not getting a lot of sleep because I was staying up really, really late working. And after about 3 years of that, when I walked away from that job for my health, mental and physical health
Yeah.
and spiritual health,
Oh
when I
yeah.
walked away, um, my sleep routine did not get back to
Mm.
normal. And so I've actually been working with a sleep coach, and it is routine. And one of the things I figured out is how well I sleep that night starts with what I very first do when I wake up
Yep.
that morning. And so I very much am starting to see the value of building these things in. And so I really like that you talk about this with your clients
Hmm.
because I just think it can definitely make the difference between that barely surviving, treading water to kind of taking care of yourself and thriving in your business, in your personal life as well.
Yeah, and I
So,
think what you said, I struggled with that too for a bit with the routine. And so the way that I have kind of built it in is there are certain days of the week that I coin for certain things. Like Mondays are more my admin days, kind of getting back from restful Sunday and
right?
church and all that. So I don't like to schedule a lot of intensive meetings on Monday. And that can be like my checking of emails, what invoices need to go out for the week, my mileage,
Right.
my expenses, the things that I don't necessarily enjoy doing, but will help me feel productive
Ugh,
throughout the week. I'm not an admin task person. I did that work. There's parts of it that have to be done in every business, but that's not like the thing that I like wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to track my mileage for the week. No,
exactly.
but my CPA appreciates it and I appreciate it when it means that I pay less in taxes. But I do that. And then again, I don't work Wednesdays and I don't work Sundays. And I really keep a lot of my like client facing meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and a lot of my staff meetings are Friday. So each day there's something new or something, exciting
Love it.
that I can look forward to where my routine is that I have networking or I have, client meetings or potential client meetings, but then I can build each day how I want it. I still get to choose when do I want to have my workouts? When do I want to go work at a coffee shop? Y'all, you would be amazed the amount of crap you get done when you are not at home.
Really?
Yes. Oh my gosh, especially now that we're in the midst of a move, I have to get out of my house to work for a couple hours a week, at least once or twice a week. And I find that those days, number one, it gives me something to be excited about. I get to get dressed up, or like today, I wore gym clothes because I worked out at the gym attached to the coffee shop. But, it gets you in a different physical space but then I feed off of the energy of everyone around me. I try to meet like a business friend that we work together, even though we're not talking to each other, we're working together. Um, but also, it gets me out of my physical space that
Hmm.
sometimes we've all been guilty of it. We're like, ooh, I have 5 minutes in between the meeting. Let me go put a load of laundry in. Let me go run the dishwasher. Let me
Yes.
go take out the dogs, which is great and one of the blessings of working from home. But if you're constantly switching your focus from one thing to the next, you're not able to really get done. And so when I go co work or I go work at a coffee shop or I'm out of my house, I have my list of like, this is what I have to focus on. Even if it is tracking my mileage, doing the things that I don't want to do, even just the change of scenery has been super helpful, and kind of breaks into that like mundaneness of uh, I'm I'm a little bit of a rebel too. I'm like, I don't want people to tell me what to do. Okay, well, you're not. I am I am being the boss to make the schedule, and then I'm being the employee to put the schedule into practice.
Right, right, right. I have to say, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try going somewhere for a few hours because you are 100% right.
Yeah.
I've got dogs in
Yes,
and
me
out, in and
too.
out, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And it's, I'll sit down and I'll start focusing, bark, bark. Get up, let him out, go back, start focusing, bark, bark. I want
Yep,
in, right?
yep.
So I am going to try that. That is a great idea. I think my fear, because I see other people doing it, and I think, how do you focus with all of this going on? But, you know, how do I focus with all of this going on?
Headphones.
Oh, headphones.
I
I
will put on
love
yeah,
it.
I bring my headphones with me if I don't have a friend there with me, because sometimes we'll just, like, banter back and forth a little bit, or if I don't have a meeting, I'll just put on some calming music in the background,
Yes.
um, find a good playlist that helps you focus. Some coffee shops are better than others. I found a couple that really work well for me where there's noise, but it's not, like, overwhelming noise.
Lot
So
going
and also,
on.
I love supporting other local businesses.
Yes.
I've run into clients and people at coffee shops where I'm like, "Oh, hey, I know you." Or people will hear me. I literally have had this happen twice where I was talking in a client meeting in public. I had headphones in so people couldn't hear what they were saying, but people could hear what I was saying. And literally felt, "Oh, you work with nonprofits? Oh, I own a business." I've gotten referrals from people just hearing me talk about what I do through a
Wow.
computer screen and they're walking by.
Love
So,
it.
not saying that that is the only strategy that you should put in for referrals or clients, but for me, my energy is higher sometimes when I'm not at home. I like to leave my at home days for the days that maybe I'm in a lot of meetings or the days that I'm not feeling as well or I
Right.
my one of my dogs has been sick. So,
Mm.
trying to be home for a couple hours at a time to be able to make sure I can take her out and do what I need to. But again, making sure I'm protecting my calendar in a way that I don't have to say yes to everything all at the same time. No is a complete thought and sentence. No justification is needed. If you need to wait on a project for a month, if you need to wait on a meeting with someone, it is not so dire, or it shouldn't be, that if you don't meet with someone tomorrow, that your business or your world are going to collapse. That has released so much pressure from me of like, well, yeah. I mean, I think we scheduled this a month ago.
Yes. Yeah.
It is what it is. Like sometimes life and business and schedules you can schedule someone out 15, 30 days.
Oh, I need to. I need to. I've got clients right now, and when I go, I schedule like a month out.
Yeah,
Then because I need spot for them,
yeah,
but I can't just hold that spot indefinitely.
correct.
So, okay. All right. So here is the other thought that I had, the second thought that I had where I said I might put you on the spot. I'm very
Okay.
curious. So, I am in my nature not a morning person. You talked about you need that first 2 hours. I need at least 2, maybe 3 hours of just piddling around the house, doing a little laundry, doing a little
Yeah,
dishes, and just kind of milling around before I can sit down and
yep,
really engage my brain. So by extension, in my nature, I hit midnight. like, I'm like, it's quiet and I can go. The problem is that my husband is a morning person and
Okay.
not a night person at all. So this has caused problems because he'll fall asleep and my brain might still be going, but he wakes up early. And when he wakes up early, guess who else is waking up
The
early?
dogs.
The dogs, and then they're barking, and then there's movement and everything, and so, I'd gotten to where I put the mask over my face and the earplugs in my ears to try to, mitigate some of that, but my question to you is, what do you say, whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, work for somebody else, it doesn't matter. What do you even have any thoughts on how do you handle this when your natural clock is not the same as the people you're living with and that creates issues? What do you do with that?
Yeah. So my husband and I almost always have different schedules because sometimes he's on nights, sometimes he's on days. And when he's on days, he's waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So part of it is having those conversations. And we've had a lot of them of like obviously respecting one another when someone's asleep, being mindful, and building that into our routine. So, when whoever gets up first, it's their responsibility to take out the dogs and to be mindful of that, making sure that, whoever gets up first, make sure there's coffee, just some of those like small pieces. But then I think there's also the piece of building your schedule around that. So, again, I normally get my husband's schedule at least a week or two in advance. And so, if I know that he's going to be sleeping during the day, for example, if he's on nights, I'll either work outside of the house or I won't take as many meetings that day.
Mm,
If I know that he is going to be on days, like he's working a 6 to 6, um, I might try to have a lot of my meetings and stuff end by 6 or 7 so that we can even just see each other for 30 minutes before he goes to bed at 8 o'clock at night.
right,
So I think
right,
part of it is that intentionality and then understanding what wakes you up, what puts you to sleep, and really constructing your day, your schedule around that. I have clients that are night owls, and so they'll tell me, "Faith, I don't want any meeting before 10 a.m. in the morning." I'm like, "That's fine," but I'll get emails from them at 11 o'clock at night, and it's not that they're working when they shouldn't be. Their brains work best after dinner time, so
right,
that's when I give them their homework in between sessions or when I've asked them to do some research, it's like, okay, and they'll text me. I have my boundaries of I won't respond or I'll put my phone on do not disturb.
right,
But a lot of it is knowing yourself, knowing your partner or your kids, and then setting those boundaries and expectations with them of like, if I'm going to respect your sleep, you need to respect mine, and creating ways in which both parties can be happy.
right, right. I love it. That's good. That's good advice. Okay. All right. So those were my two thoughts after point number two. What is, drum roll, what is your best for last?
Yes. So the last one is the recharge without stepping away. And so I am a firm believer that every person should have at least a couple hours of uninterrupted rest. And I don't mean just like taking a nap. I mean disconnecting, recharging every week. If you guys like to read the book Sacred Rest, is one of my favorite books. That's actually kind of how I got started into the burnout prevention work. It's written by a physician, and one of her two last names is Smith, and I'm going to butcher it. So just look up the book Sacred Rest. But that was the first like model or like book that I read about burnout prevention, and it talks about the 7 areas of rest that we need. And then I found the NIH's National Institute of Health's 8 dimensions of wellness. They go very hand in hand. But basically, this book talks about how there's 7 areas in our life that we can rest or ways that we can rest. And it actually gives you like a little quiz that you can take to see how much rest you need or how little rest that you've been getting in that area. So it's
Wow.
finding ways to pour back into yourself, find ways that you can rediscover your joy and creativity. So think about what within your job, your business, your life brings you joy. Maybe it's spending time with family or friends. For me, recently, if you'd have told me this a year ago, I'd have laughed at you. Like for me, recently has been working out. I really have found like that is my quiet time in my head. I just sweat. I listen to music or someone tells me what to do with the workout. I don't have to think. I don't have to talk to people. I talk to people all day long. I love what I do. But sometimes I just need to like, right? That's also often when a lot of my like internal conversations happen. A lot of my prayers happen because I'm being physically quiet. So it is a great time to be having internal brain conversations. Um, Anyways, so what are ways that you pour into yourself? For me, I love when I can be creative. Like I love strategizing the future for my company. I love um being able to be creative with my clients on new strategies or new things that could be working. I love working with my team and helping build up their skills. So figure out what are those pieces within your life, within your business that bring you joy. And like when you're done with them, you just feel like on fire in a good way.
Mm.
And finding spaces and places to build those in every day. Not all of them, but at least one thing that brings you joy each day. Taking breaks throughout the day, even if it's a micro break, like 5 minutes after a meeting, shut the computer down, like go rest your eyes, go take a walk outside. We forget. Like, I think COVID destroyed our brains in that way. It's like we would just go back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
8 hour workday, we'd book 8 1 hour meetings. No, eat your lunch, not watching a screen, whether it's a meeting or TV. Like chew your food fully, like connect with your meal. Spending time outside. Again, that calendar design. How are you creating what you expect of yourself every day? And then really being intentional with our mindset. The law of attraction is something that keeps coming up every couple of days, like on my social media feed, been talking with clients. Um, and it's true. The energy that you put out there, what you give to people comes back to you. And oftentimes, again, burnout happens because we're not doing enough of the right things and we're depleting ourselves in areas that we're not pouring back into. And so, as much as you can, if there are things within your life, within your business that you dread doing, can you outsource them? If you can't, how do you combine them all together and reward yourself with something fun?
Right.
Like, we don't do enough fun in our lives nowadays. It's so much like, gotta take care of the kids, gotta go to church, which church can be fun too, don't get me wrong. But it's like the things that we feel like we have to do instead of the things that we look forward to doing. And maybe what you look forward to doing is like going on a walk,
Yes.
listening to some music and dancing around the house.
Yes.
Going and hanging out with a girlfriend that you haven't seen in a while, picking up the phone and calling someone. One of the best reminders that I give myself on a regular basis and my husband reminds me of often is like what memories are we building for ourselves and for other people?
Wow. I like
Is
that.
whether it's how you spend your time, how you spend your money,
Mm.
where you give your energy to. It's what memories are you building that you can look back on, right? We can't get this time back. Each day is not promised. Each day could be our last. And not to sound morbid, but it's the truth. And so, how are you spending your time in the most effective, efficient, but also impactful way? And so, when I started shifting my mindset that way of how I'm building relationships, how I'm scheduling my time, how I'm spending time with others, and pouring into spaces and places that also pour back into me, I stopped putting a number on, well, here's how many client meetings I have to have each week or how many hours of billable, but it's what is going to get me closest to the person that I'm working to become personally and professionally and focusing on that, knowing the rest will come.
Okay, so you've triggered so many thoughts in my head. Number one, and I've kind of put it out there in the past that I am a full-on workaholic.
I am
But
too.
but this is
It's
the
getting
thing.
better. It's getting better though.
That's exactly right. So this is the thing. Once I kind of put it out there that I am a workaholic and it is not a badge of honor. Like that's what we need to realize
Yep.
because I grew up work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. But there is something about the boundaries that I
Yep.
was not setting for myself.
Yeah.
And it was really messing with all different facets of my life.
Yeah.
And so I actually have a client, we were talking about this workaholic mentality, and she made the comment, we were in a group meeting, and she made the comment somewhere along the lines of, "You know what? When you die, what are you gonna be doing? Holding your trophy that said, hey, I was workaholic," or something like that.
Sure.
But the point is, what badge are we gonna get? What trophy are we gonna get for being a workaholic? And
Yeah.
in the end, when we're gone, what does that matter?
Yeah.
But what you talked about, what memories are you making? That's like one of those aha moments for me, because I'm thinking I need to stop being a workaholic, and I really am working on that and have been for a while. But my thoughts were stopping there. I want to be a good wife and I'm gonna say great wife and a great mom,
Yeah.
and now a great grandma, a
Oh,
great friend, a
yeah.
great sibling, a great daughter. And so that's kind of what I think is, how can I invest in the people that I love so deeply? But let's take it further, Faith, in what you said. What memories are we building in this moment of being intentional in that relationship? So that is huge. I really like that, because so many people find their identity in what their job is
Yep.
or in what their company is. And
Yep.
I am an entrepreneur. I'm the owner of, the salesman of the year. And that's our identity. And while all of those things are celebration worthy, that is not the end.
Yeah.
So I love that you brought that up for sure. And okay, the other thought left my brain. So I don't know what it was. I'll think about it at the end. Okay. All right. So these are really good steps to think about and to really try to implement. And I know that I have kind of had my eyes opened up to some things, and also some validation and some decisions that I've been making lately. And so thank you for that. Thank you for helping with that. Okay. Before we close out, is there anything else that you want to share with the women in business who are watching or listening?
Sure. So I know that Tracy will put it in the show notes, but for any of the listeners who want some help kind of diving into like what are these things that we're talking about and strategizing what intentional growth without the burnout could look like, as a thank you for the Oh Yes I Can group, if you go to alosavitas.com/offer, there will be some information on how you can get a discounted strategy session for
Love
us to
it.
start diving into some of these things. And then the other piece that I would mention is any of you who are close to the Midwest or want to travel out to the Midwest, October 30th, I will be co hosting an in person conference in Columbus, Ohio, for the Tapping into Your Higher Purpose conference. And we're hoping to have a date in the spring for Texas to be rescheduled soon.
Oh, I love it. I love it, because I am going to be part of the Texas one.
Yes, yes,
Yay. So you're going to have to come out and see Faith and see me and
yes.
a lot of other people. Okay, here was another thought that just clicked. So one of the things that I very much appreciate about you and being part of the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business group is that one of our beliefs is that it's collaboration over competition, and I mentioned that at the
Yeah.
beginning. And one of the things that I love, like lights my fire, tears to my eyes moments, are when I see members of the group collaborating together. And let me tell you, Faith does a beautiful job of finding other members to collaborate with. And I absolutely love watching that happen. And I'm like the proud mom that gets to watch the members, really flourish together. Faith, I just appreciate you. We will put all of that information. We'll put the book, we'll put the links to her podcast episodes with the Communicate Great podcast, and the link to let's see, to the offer that you're giving, and one or two other things I don't remember, but read the description, read the notes, and it will be there. So Faith, thank you so much for your time. I know you have so much going on, and so I just love that you took these moments for us to spotlight you and to celebrate you as a woman in business. So thank you so much, Faith.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It was a joy.
All right, we will see everybody next time. Bye.